Mr. Powell, if you would lead us in prayer, and Mr. Clayton, if you would, excuse me, I'd like to ask the sheriff to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please.
If you desire, pray with me, please. Merciful God, we thank you for the gift of another day, gift of life, and all the signs of your magnificent power displayed before us. And we ask for your guidance and direction in all that we do or say here today, that it will enhance the citizens of our county. Bless those that are serving to protect our freedom and freedom of worship as well all over the world. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is Nikki Williams here?
She is.
Could I ask her to come forward, please? The county commissioners wish to present a certificate of service award that is signed by the governor. The Governor's Volunteer Service Award honors the true spirit of volunteerism, and we want to recognize her and let her know that she makes a significant contribution to the community through her volunteer service at the Person County Animal Service. Ms. Nikki Williams has devoted at least 2 days a week, around 5 hours each day since 2012. She has done a number of fundraisers for the sheltered animals and has been a big part in changing the public perception of our shelter. She also schedules homeschool children, kids for volunteering. She helps with education days when daycares and school classrooms come to visit. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your dedication, time, and effort on behalf of the citizens and animals of Person County.
You're welcome.
I'd like to present you with this Governor's Award.
Okay.
And thank you very much for your service. Okay. Does anybody need to make any adjustments to the agenda? Add or delete?
Before approval.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bob Carruth and Bill Halliburton, if you would come forward, please. The floor is yours.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you all for having us today. Bob Carruth, I'm the Risk Control Manager for the Risk Management Pools with the NCACC, and I have with me Bill Halliburton this morning. He is one of our loss control specialists, but he's also the coordinator of our risk management program for our sheriffs. And as you all are well aware, one of the more complex relationships is between the Office of Sheriff and the Board of Commissioners in any county. And we are proud to have created several programs because our risk management program extends beyond the jurisdiction of even the Board of Commissioners to that of the Office of the Sheriff. And so we cover them from a liability standpoint as well as workers' comp. And we have a program that we have initiated that directly benefits our law enforcement officers, and that is the soft armor program. And I'll let Bill explain that for just a second. But one of the reasons we're here today is that this is open to any of our counties that are in our workers' comp pool, but Person County is the first county in the state in our pools to take advantage of this program. So we felt it was important to come here today to recognize it in person and present the check to the sheriff. So I'll let Bill explain a little bit about the program.
First, who
Sure.
NCACC is.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, of which Person County is a member of, all 100 counties. And we are the voice in Raleigh for you, and we do many different things, including speaking out in Raleigh, as well as providing their insurance program for actually 69 of the 100 counties across the state of North Carolina. So, Bill, I'll let you explain about the soft armor program, what it's about.
2 years ago, I started this job, and me and Bob went and visited with many sheriffs and chief deputies and jail administrators and just asked them what could we as an association do to help the sheriff's offices. And so one of the major things that we came up with, or was requested of, was policy development, high-risk policy development, and training, and a vest program to help with the sheriff's offices being able to acquire bulletproof vests. It took a while, but we finally got those programs enacted, and like Bob said, Pearson County was the very first sheriff's office to say, hey, we want to be part of that program. And so I want to say thank you, Sheriff. We have other programs that are all free, thanks to you guys, that we hope that you'll take part in. Like I said, we have a training program that has over 200 courses for your deputies and jail personnel. We're also looking at future programs, so if you have any ideas, Sheriff, if you have any ideas of other equipment, I know bumper grills is a big thing that we're also looking at, but we just want to again say thank you for participating in the VEST program.
Sure. I know, being a former county commissioner, that there's some things, administrative things have to do with this money first, but I want to present you with this check, $1,500. That's to help defray the cost of buying soft armor for your deputies to protect them, because they protect us.
We appreciate that a whole lot.
Yes, sir.
Like that you know, and the commissioner, I think they already know, our bulletproof vests and a lot of our equipment, we have not come to this board to ask for money. We've actually sought for it like this, or to use drug dealers' asset forfeiture money, but the safety of our officers is number one, and we do appreciate this. And you know, I get the emails, you know, from y'all's office, but I also want to say thanks to HR for bringing it to our attention, and then I forwarded it right straight to Captain Wilburn, and he filled it out. And didn't know we would be the first, but we appreciate it. Appreciate everything.
Okay.
All right. All
Good.
right.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna pass this on to you.
I know how that goes.
Thank you, sir. All right, we got anybody sign up for informal? All right. Is there anything in the consent agenda that anybody wants to pull out and talk about?
Move for approval.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Jones, if you could enlighten us on how much money we collected.
Enlighten. I'm happy this morning to be before you to give you the 2018 tax collector settlement. I do have a PowerPoint I want to show. It's easy to remember numbers. You can see them in front of you. Yeah, I think this one here will work. There's an on-off button. Okay. That helps. So, of course, tax collector settlement is required by statute. And this is a good way to check in with the board and tell them what we did in the past year. Also a good time to think about why we have the collection rate we have. It's not because of my efforts mainly. It's mainly due to my citizens we're working with, who are a great group of citizens to work with. They're very conscientious. Most of them understand the tax money is used well, and they want to pay their fair share. And of course, the staff who are always putting forth efforts to get that money collected. So this is not my collector settlement. It's my staff and my county. I'm very privileged to work for Person County. So what did our collection rate look like? So I broke it down in 3 different categories, and this is the real personal is everything that walks through our front door, including the public service. And I broke out motor vehicles separately because motor vehicles goes through the MV now as of 2013. As you can see, we all thought motor vehicles will be 100% collection rate, but it is not. But it's very close. So we had $3,700 not collected by motor vehicles, and that is due to a couple of things, and this will continue to occur. It's either because of bad checks written to DMV, or it's because of limited registration plates. We call it LRPs. Limited registration plate is when I buy a new car, and I don't want to finance my property taxes in with that car purchase, and I also don't want to pay it right away. So they give me like a 30 to 60 day window to pay that, and some people just don't pay it. But DMV has put in place this past year a way to block every DMV services that person would receive so they can't move forward until they pay their old debt. So that number will stay under control, but it will always be a number out there that we don't collect. But 99 weights on a motor vehicle. We always have 100% collections on public service. That's your public utilities, everything from your power companies to your gas lines to your phone services to bus lines, a little bit of everything on there. So if you look at the number uncollected at the very top line, we collected around $23 million, left $369,000 on the table. That's about 1,800 bills. But on history, we're going to collect about 53% of that $369,000 in the next 12 months. So not only do we do a great job of collecting the money up front, 98.43, budgeting 30, we're not going to leave that money out there. We're going to work very hard to get that money collected. And we also was hoping to get down to 99% this year. We did get to 99%, not by June 30. Actually, I watched that, and July the 10th is when we made 99%. I really thought we would get that this year, and I was real hopeful for that. And of that 369,000, we're already down to 338. We collected 31,000 of that in the last month just to get that number down. So we are not a 99% count as of June 30, but really close.
Is that through garnish and?
I have a slide that will address that. That is using all the tools we can get our hands on to get there. This here is kind of interesting. So we talked about the collection rate, and when I combined the public service, the motor vehicles, and my collection rate, we get down to 98.85. And then I'll talk about an adjusted collection rate, and this is what other counties are doing. So this is not what's reported to the local government commission, but this is what we compare ourselves to. What we do for the adjusted rate, we look at how many bankruptcies we had and how many appeals we had that didn't pay. So if you're under appeal with the state, you don't have to pay your taxes. You can delay that until the appeal's settled, and we actually do have one of those. So the bankruptcy accounts about $24,000 that we could not touch. That's $24,000 that they're under a judge's order for us to leave them alone. And that's about 55 accounts, about 71 bills just for 2018. And then the one thing under appeal is about $2,800. That those were not out there, and we could have actually collected those, would have been at 98.93. I just want to compare each category for 5 years, mainly to point out the DMV and the public service. You can see public service is always 100%. I can't imagine that not being 100%. The public service guys are great to pay their taxes. Motor vehicles is staying in the high 99% every year, which is not surprising. And our collection rate stays in the upper 98s all along. So probably the best slide to look at that would be when you combine them all together. And you can see we actually had a really good year, 2015-16. It was the highest ever on record. And now we're at 98.85 this year, which is just a little different. But bankruptcy is a little bit higher this year, but not enough to make you alarmed. This is the slide that Commissioner, Chairman Newell asked about a minute ago. So this is what we actually use to collect taxes. So delinquent notices are mailed out. After we send out the original notice, like we did this past week, you'll be getting it this week. We advertise in the paper. A lot of people will call as soon as they get that bill and want to know what's the last day to pay before my name goes in the paper. They're not interested in interest. They just don't want the name in the paper, which that's a great collection tool, believe it or not. Garnishments is the next thing we try. Garnishments is our next tool because it's less painful for the taxpayer. So we're going to take 10% of their gross wages. So we can find out where they're working, and we can look at their paycheck and tell they're going to get caught up in the next few months. Garnishment is definitely the right answer. We actually did more garnishments this year than we ever have done, and we were able to do, because of our software, almost 1,100 in one batch. So 1,100 certified letters to left my office in one afternoon. The previous record was 674. So we had a big batch went out, and that got the money rolling in early. Bank attachments, that's the next thing. Bank attachments are a little more painful for the taxpayer because it will take all the money we need, it is available to pay the taxes, and it doesn't understand that you have other checks out there that will bounce because of that. One good note is that the banks are not allowed to touch Social Security or disability payments, so that is protected. So the bank looks, because we can't see it, but the bank looks and says, I can't send you this money because it's Social Security money. So that is a good thing that people on fixed income don't get their banks drafted except for any extra money may be there. We use these cheats. People know it's NC Cash. That's how we collect from dead people mainly. but oftentimes people will have money due to them they don't know about, so we're on that website looking on a regular basis, trying to find that. Debt set-off is something we've used many times, but debt set-off is not as good as it used to be. Everyone has probably noticed you get less of a state tax refund than you used to, less money available. And debt set-off worked really well when we did motor vehicles because of a lot of extra bills out there that weren't paid. So debt set-off has dwindled down over the years, but it still is a good tool. And of course, payment arrangements, we're always trying to find ways to help people get the taxes paid. A lot of people on fixed income are making payments on this year's taxes before the bills before the tax rate's even calculated. They started January, they split last year's bill by 12, and they're already halfway finished paying it before they even get the bill in the mail. And of course, the final option would be foreclosure. And foreclosure is where we can't get anyone to pay, so we end up going through the legal process of selling the property, public auction at the highest bidder. We talk about the collection rate for the 2018 tax year. We probably shouldn't forget everything else we do. So there's tons of other fees we collect, stormwater, fire tax, animal tax, which we got rid of for this year, county interest, grocery receipts, which is short-term rentals on rental cars, beer and wine license, late listing, $4.5 million for the city. So overall, we collect about $35 million, and that is money that comes in our front door, not money included in DMV. So $35 million is what we're responsible for.
All right, the county interest is what?
It's a statutory
Late
interest.
fees?
I'm sorry?
Late fees?
Late fees and interest are different in our world. So late fees is a late listing. So I didn't list my taxes by January 31st, or I didn't list by the extension that was granted before January 31st. Interest is strictly I didn't pay, and it's 2% the first month, 3/4, 1% after that.
Okay.
And it's not interest on interest, it's interest on principal, but you got to pay your interest first by statute. So that's the part due on late payments. And that's what we collected. That's not what left out there. That's actually collections there. We collected $126,000 in interest for the county. I did that. I had the fire tax and interest together in one category because it was a small number, but fire interest is the same way. And stormwater gets zero interest. And the city, of course, gets interest. So all that's summed up together in some boxes. This is probably one of my favorite slides. This is looking at 11 years down the road. What did we have to write off that we could not collect? And what was our final collection rate after 11 years? So you look back at that $369 I left on the table. We're going to continue to work on that. And we're going to end up writing off 4/100ths of 1%. And we don't write off in between the 10-year time frame. This is all that's ever written off. So that 99.96 represents 405 bills that we didn't collect. And 45 of those were real property, the rest are motor vehicles. So that number's going to continue to go down as the new vehicle system takes over. So we wrote off $11,684 out of $27 million. So we're not writing off much at all, which I'm very proud of. And there's a couple of just pointers to think about. We mentioned many times in meetings here and other places across the county about the county being an aging county. We have more and more properties owned by deceased owners. Deceased owners for just the 2018 was $70,000. And of that, if you take that and look at all years, we're at $255,000 owed by deceased owners. And that's just the ones we know are deceased. We hadn't had time to research every one, but the ones we know that people have passed away, it's hard to collect that money. For the first year, they open an estate, and that kind of makes sense that they're working on getting the estate closed, but many times they don't open the estate. It doesn't get closed, and that tax bill just sits out there. So that's where your foreclosure comes into play. And foreclosure, everybody thinks is a really bad word, but foreclosure oftentimes does not end up in a public auction. It ends up in the family being notified they have property, and then they go and get the estate opened, and then get it back into the hands of someone who could actually do something with it rather than having abandoned properties. We started last year sending out notices to people, just reminding them about all kinds of other dates. We do this during listing time, so instead of just sending a failed to list and charging the extra 10% penalty with it we saw earlier, I didn't do that. We start sending out notices saying, now it's time to apply for your senior citizen exemption. Here's some other deadlines. There's other ways that you can qualify for lower tax bills. Gap bill was something that we had to deal with this year, and we've talked about it a few times. The gap billing is when you go to DMV and you're late renewing, and DMV changes your expiration date, so they skip a couple of months in there that you didn't pay taxes on. A lot of those are legitimate because the car was broken down, or I was in hospital sick, or it was a motorcycle, a seasonal vehicle. But sometimes DMV will change it just because the taxpayer doesn't want to pay the late fees to them, and they're angry. So that meant we had $31,000 more in county taxes to collect, which is great. But these bills were tiny. Some of them were $2 or $3. So of that, we collected $22,000, and as we well suspected, the collection rate on those gap bills was very low, it was 72%. So what we did this year, we actually came to the board, and the board decided that any bill less than $3, we should just go ahead and take off the books. That's going to help on a lot of the small bills. But we still end up with 1,500 bills this year we had to include with the gap, even wiping out under $3. And we include that with their real estate bills this year to save on postage, and hopefully that will make them make the collection rate go up on that. I really don't want to garnish someone who owes a $3 bill and add a $30 fee, but after it's been a year and I sent out 3 different notices, I really don't have much option. I'm charged with collecting all taxes, so I'm lenient, and my staff understands that we don't want to add $30 to that full $3 bill, but sometimes you just got to get the bill paid. We're still working on new software, and that's been like a 2-year project, but we now have our Surface Pro, which is kind of like a tablet out in the field, so we're not taking paperwork in the field much at all. For revaluation, we didn't have to print 8 cases of paper to send out with the appraisers. All that's done electronically. We're getting daily reports, electronic notes of what changed on the record card. It's tied to the system. It falls in a workflow. Not only are you saving on postage, you're saving on your printing, saving on storage space, filing time. It's just a tremendous project. It works very well for us. Fire tax, would be remiss if we didn't mention that. So last year we talked about fire tax, and we wanted to collect $367,572 through the fire tax. I collected $9,200 more than that, which is, you always want to be more. Left the $4,100 uncollected. So fire tax collection rate was actually higher than the county collection rate. Partly because, or solely because, the fire tax didn't include city properties. The city collection rate is lower than the county collection rate, which means the city collection rate did not bring down the fire rate. So we had a better collection rate on fire than we had on the county taxes. And of course, 2021 reval, we're out in the field working now, working on scheduled values, taking photos, making notes on condition of properties. So you'll see our guys out in the field. They'll either have county seals on the car, or they'll have blue and white magnets on the car that says Person County Revaluation. So they're out there doing that now, working mostly in the north part of the county at first. So that's my settlement report. Any questions you have, I'll be glad to address those. I do need a motion to accept the report if so desired. I do talk fast.
No questions, I move for approval.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
I have one more item for you. In order to do the same thing next year, you have to order me to collect taxes. That gives me all the statutory authority to garnish, attach, foreclose, whatever it takes to get the collection done. But I have to order from the board to collect next year's taxes.
Make a motion to authorize him to collect any and all taxes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your work. All right, Laura Zinson, if you could.
Good morning, everyone. Before you today is a resolution waiving the competitive bidding requirements under North Carolina General Statute 143-129G and approval of contract for the purchase of permitting software. Funding for the purchase of new permitting software was approved in the fiscal year 20 CIP. This software will be used by planning, inspections, GIS, and environmental health. And under North Carolina General Statute 143-129G, the county may enter into a contract without undergoing the competitive bidding process if a unit of government in another state has entered into a contract within the previous 12-month period with a vendor for the same type of equipment, and that is if that government utilizes a public formal bidding process similar to North Carolina requirements. St. Lucie County, Florida entered into a contract with Tyler Technologies last November for similar types of permitting software, and that Tyler offered Person County the same terms and conditions as it did for St. Lucie County. The City of Roxborough is also participating in the contract and will fund the purchase of the software based upon their license usage. A notice was published in the Courier-Times on July 12th, notifying the public that the board would be considering this option. And so I'm here to answer any questions that you have and ask if you are inclined to approve the waiver of competitive bidding requirements and award the permitting software contract with Tyler Technologies.
Just a brief comment on the city's involvement. How's that work?
So my understanding from Chris Puryear in our IT department is that we'll have licenses, it's almost like user roles, I believe, and they will be using, would you like to?
I didn't hear the question.
Okay,
sorry.
how will the City of Roxborough, how will we track their usage and then invoice them?
So they are a percentage based on their number of users. I think it's actually 22,000 is what their annual cost is, but we basically have a formula that breaks out each individual county department for their part of the support each year. And then we have the City of Roxborough broken down. I think they've got 2 users. It's based on a module that they use plus the number of users that they have.
All right, how much was budgeted for that?
So it is part of the CIP, and so the total cost for Person County would be, I believe it's $145,000, it looks like?
That sounds right.
Yes.
Correct.
So that's $145,000, and is part of the CIP plan for next year, or for this current year, excuse me.
Or is that, if we bought it from the people in, same people, if we bought it from Tyler, whoever,
Yes.
are we gonna get it for less than that, or?
So St. Lucie County, Florida, that should be in your packet, but they purchased their software for about $865,000. So it's, obviously they're at a different scale than us, so,
But we did get a cheaper rate per unit, actually, than they got.
yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we looked at this product. We actually investigated about 5 or 6 different products. CityView, Intergov being the Tyler product, which is actually the same manufacturer that we use for our financial software. We looked at, can't remember the names of some of the others, but this was the only package that we found that had everything combined where we wouldn't have to buy multiple software packages. And they were actually right in line, if not cheaper, than some of the others that didn't have all the same features. But this is the price that we were extended at the current time, which is, as you mentioned, the 140.
145.
Yeah.
We believe this is going to be a service enhancement for our development services who will now all be working seamlessly from the same software product and able to do more work out in the field, just like you heard with Russell's employees as well.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the waiver.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Laura?
I have the next one as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Emergency Medical Services is promoting more classes for the community, teaching CPR and other first aid response activities. And they would like to begin charging a fee of $7 to cover the cost of materials specifically for their CPR class, but to cover the booklet as well as the face mask used in training. And so any fee that is charged by a county department needs to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners. So the request is today to approve the addition of the $7 community materials training fee to the adopted fee schedule for Person County.
All right. Have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Reeves?
This morning, Board of County Commissioners, I'd like to remind you that you all solicit volunteers for my citizenship through advertisement in the local newspaper as well as through advertisement on our county website to fill positions that are vacant on boards, commissions, authorities, and committees. Today, I would like to present to you interested citizen applications for a couple of those vacancies. The very first one I'd like to address is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. We have an application from Teresa Johnson to be reappointed representing the faith community. What is the desire of the board for this application?
She to be reappointed.
Reappointed.
Move for approval.
We have to vote on each one.
Yes, please.
All in favor, say aye. Okay.
Thank you. The next one I'd like to present to you is the Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority. This is an authority that approves issuance of industrial and pollution control financing bonds for private industry. This group meets on an as-needed basis and has not met since 2010. The committee is comprised of 7 members, and currently we have 5 vacancies. It is hard to keep members engaged on this committee because they do not meet. We did have resulted in one application. Mr. Dennis Herman has requested appointment. However, he wanted to make a note to you that he lives part-time in New York through June to September of the year. October through May, he lives in Person County. So I would like to present your application with that stipulation that he is only available during those months. So I would ask that the board would nominate and appoint as deemed appropriate, or maybe direct the clerk to place his application of interest on file and reactivate once we actually have a case before us to determine his availability.
Is this a board, and it may be a wrong question, is this a board that commissioners could take over those duties given they don't meet?
The answer is no. This is a statutorily required board. It used to be the way that we finance economic development projects. We've used it one time in the last 13 years, a fiberboard manufacturer that used the leftover product from the power companies. It was a multi-hundred millions dollar project to get that going in Person County. It's a complicated legal process, but quick answer, it is a statutorily required board, seldom used anymore, but we did use it one time within the last 10 years. And it sort of sits there until you need it, and when we needed it, it resulted in a multiple millions of dollars economic development program in Person County.
What happens if we need it and they're not filled?
We'd have to recruit immediately and have them filled immediately.
So given that it deals with economic development, could we place some of our economic development board members in these positions so it's filled, given that it's as needed? Maybe that's something you can take back to the
That's
board.
fine. I will say that about 2 years ago, I tried to great length to get people on this board. Not a single one. I mean, for months, I tried that. So nobody wants to commit to something that a committee that may never meet. And to me, that was okay.
So that's why I
But,
said
the
maybe if
committee.
you take it back to the EDC board, maybe some of those members would be willing to fill the slots, given that,
we can do that tomorrow. How do you take care of that?
Add it to our list.
Who are the 2 people that are already on it?
I can tell you. Rhonda Haynes and Kent Perry are the 2 active committee members. This was formerly led by Alec Hicks. His term has expired this year, and he did not reapply, but he served as the chairman of that group.
So you don't have a chair at the moment?
We do not.
Okay.
All right, I got a question right quick before. What did you say about that position, just the one you just brought up, that he didn't reapply?
Alec Hicks. Yeah.
Okay.
He has historically served as the chairman of that group, but he did not reapply when the letters were sent out with applications this year. And Dr. Johnny Bratcher also has served on that and did not apply this round. we've historically had vacancies on this group. It's hard to keep people engaged.
My question to the attorney is, if they didn't reapply, but the position hadn't been filled and nobody else applied, are they still officially on that board?
Normal state law is to a public agency, which this is.
They are now until.
The person incumbent in the office stays in office until his successor is selected and qualifies and fills the office.
Unless they actually resigned.
Unless there's an actual resignation.
So they're actually still on the board.
Technically, they are on the board. We could list them
What I
as
thought.
being on the board, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, where are we now?
All right, so we will table that and take that to the EDC board to see if they can help us out with that. We actually have one position on the Board of Health Department that's designated for optometrist. And we have advertised for this and we had no applications received. But general statutes allow for the county to appoint from the general public when there are no interested citizens available in that, to serve in that capacity. And this has been the practice for all of my tenure here in Person County for the last 10, 12 years. We have never had an optometrist serve on the Board of Health, so we've had a person from the general public to always sit in that seat. But however, we have one position, but we have two applications that were submitted on behalf of this. One of them is Dr. Stephen Saunders, who has requested reappointment, and Kenneth Strajan has requested appointment on that. So again, I present these applications to you for consideration for appointment. And if you would like to follow the same cycle as you did previously for the informal interview process, we can certainly add these to that list on August 5th at 6 p.m. if that's the desire of the board.
I think so.
With the interview? All right.
All right, well, I will contact these two gentlemen and let them know of the informal interview process on August 5th, starting at 6 o'clock.
Who was the other one besides Saunders?
Kenneth Strajan, Strachan. His application is included in your packet. I do not know the gentleman. But on that same topic, I have a couple of updates for you all related to the informal interview process that you had took action to schedule for August 5th, starting at 6 o'clock. Two of the four committees, currently you have Board of Adjustment, Library Board, Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees, and Planning Board, where we had more applicants than we had seats. But since that time where you took action in June, we have had a couple of people to withdraw their application. So I'd like to give you the updates first. There's no update for PCC Board of Trustees or the Library Advisory Board. The two updates involve the Board of Adjustment as well as Planning Board. The Board of Adjustment, where we had two applications for one seat, Mr. Andrew Withers, who's previously served in this capacity, has withdrawn his application for consideration. But I do want to note, we do have one application for Sheila McGee, who has also submitted an application of interest for the Planning Board. But in addition to this, I wanted to remind you that on the Board of Adjustment that you do have an alternate member designated on that. Mr. Charles Harvey is currently serving as the alternate, who attends the meetings and is involved with the process and hears the cases. On your Planning Board, where you had previously 3 applications for 2 seats, Mr. Derek Smith has withdrawn his application, as well as you've had a member of the Planning Board, Mr. Kenneth Malcolm Montgomery, has resigned his seat. So now we have 2 positions for a regular term plus 1 unexpired term for vacancies, to which now we have Mr. Barry Walker, who has requested reappointment. Sheila McGee, as I mentioned, has also applied for the Board of Adjustment. And then we've had recently an application that's at your seat, Mr. Benjamin Galt, who is interested in serving on the County Planning Board. So we actually have 3 applications for those 3 seats for consideration, 2 for 4 terms and 1 for basically a 1-year term was unexpired.
Is there any conflict or anything to have a member that's on the Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, or the duties of that separate?
The duties are separate. It's not a conflict. However, those are two very involved boards when they have cases before them. Staff has recommended that we would not burden a citizen in having to learn two committees at one time. Again, you could certainly appoint the same individual to both committees. And if she agrees to do it,
And the
then
Board of Adjustment only meets as needed?
that's correct.
I
Well,
wanna-
they both actually meet on as needed. Typically, the planning board meets monthly, but not always the case before then.
The Board of Adjustment, you said you have one position open, with Charles Harvey as the alternate, he has been filling in.
He's been serving as the alternate for the last, say, year. He's not been a voting member, but I wanted to make that aware to you that he has been serving in that capacity in case you would like to ask him to step up and
I would
take the voting
I would
seat.
move to nominate him to the voting seat and place Sheila McGee in the alternate, given she's applied to that in the Planning Board.
How about the rest of them? What were your recommendations? Did you have something from your staff related to the others?
Not related to the others. Speaking to the planning staff, their recommendation was not to have, it might be a little overwhelming for a new citizen to serve in both of those capacities. However, it can be done.
I got one quick question. I want to ask you, attorney, about if we have a situation that comes before the planning board and then it gets appealed to the Board of Adjustments, then you've got this person. So I understand what you're saying, but fill a position on the Board of Adjustments. Let Sheila be on the planning board, and then we'll look for an alternate for the Board of Adjustments, because I see a situation of where you're going to have something before the planning board, it gets appealed to the Board of Adjustments, and when it goes to that, then you've got somebody that's already sat on the previous board that may have heard something that they don't need to have heard before they heard it on the Board of Adjustments. And that gets into the legal realm of conflict, that gets into the court system, that they look back and say, well, this, they're going down the wrong path.
Mr. Clayton, you've given a very good legal explanation of the situation. The Board of Adjustments, among other things, hears appeals from actions of the planning board. Our planning board does not have the total authority, as some planning boards do, to make decisions. They make recommendations to you, but they are the first ones to hear the case. If a case is then appealed from your decision or recommendation of the planning board, a member who has heard that case initially for making recommendations to this board has already been involved in the decision. When the Board of Adjustments makes a decision, they are supposed to come into that decision as you are in a similar situation, with an open mind, with a mind that may have heard some facts but has not made a decision. It might be hard for a board member who sat on a planning board to be able to have that open mind when they come to make that decision on the Board of Adjustments. It's at least legally distressing, if not wrong.
And you've almost guaranteed a appeal to the Superior Court.
One of the bases for appeals from a Board of Adjustments is, in fact, that a board member took part in a decision and didn't have that open mind when they started that process.
And what names did you have on
If there was
the,
any conflict.
Mr. Gall is on which one is he applying for?
Planning board.
Okay, what other names are on that board? Or
Barry Walker, Sheila McGee.
That's right.
The way I see that is, we have a shortage of applicants, and we're dealing with the applicants that we did receive from, the way I look at this, I would put Sheila McGee on the Board of Adjustment and put Mr. Barry Walker and Mr. Benji Galt on the planning board, being that these are the applicants that were received. And withhold any conflict from two people serving on the board.
Well, given the explanation of conflict after I asked the question, I was going to suggest make Charles a voting member, reapply for an alternate. And you have now 3 positions available on the planning board. And I don't know if Benji's application was late or whatnot, because Cindy's at our desk.
Actually, I think following the update of having a resignation, he was recruited upon by one of the commissioners, and it was submitted last week.
So I would suggest filling the 2 positions with Barry and Sheila, and Benji to fulfill the term of Kenneth Montgomery.
Building inspector.
Right, so the 2 positions are planning board, correct?
Three.
So you got,
Kenneth had resigned.
all right, so you got 3 positions. So
Who's
you
get-
want Benji to fill the unexpired term for Kenneth, and what's the remaining term for Kenneth?
Well, it's 1 year, 6/30,
About a year.
20, yeah. So it's like a year term.
And
Then he
then,
can reapply.
yeah, then make Charles Harvey the voting person for Board of Adjustment and leave the alternate open, and let's try to recruit.
I make a motion, we do that.
All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chairman's report, I don't have anything at this time. How do you got in?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you that we have a joint meeting tonight with the Board of Health. It begins at 6 p.m. and will be held in the FEMA room. So please don't come here. We'll be up closer to the health department. Tomorrow, the EDC is meeting for a strategic planning session from 1 to 5, and they are meeting at their new facility, which is across the street at the former Workforce Development Center. As you're aware, we have now moved PATS and Economic Development over to that building right across the street from us. Also wanted to let you know that we have transitioned with the fiscal year to the new cell phone mobile devices. And if you have not picked up your county-owned cell phone devices, I need to get those to you unless you're choosing not to use them. And if that's the case, then we need to make sure that we have the correct cell phone numbers for you on the website. Because as of July 1, all of the new phone numbers are listed for you for mobile phones. And so if you're not using those, please let us know so we can get that corrected. And get those sent back to IT and not pay a monthly charge, which we started incurring on July 1. Okay, that's all I had.
All right. Any commissioners got anything they want to bring up?
In the interest of time, I'm not gonna say anything, because I know Mr. Freer needs to get out of here.
Okay.
Well, I'll do one brief. I did get word from DOT officials last week that the resolution approving the road naming section on Mount Harmony Church Road for World War I veteran Lieutenant George Yarborough will be read on August 8th. So that one application managed to get through all the hoops, was approved by the DOT committee, then goes to the full board on the 8th for approval, and a pending local ceremony sometime later in the year.
All right. Anybody else? All right. I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
All right, all in favor say aye. All right, this is to include Heidi, Brenda Reeves, Ron Aycock, and Lauren Johnson. Is it Johnson?
Lauren
Jensen.
Jensen.
Jensen, excuse me, okay. All right. All in favor say aye. All right, we are now in closed session.
Russell. It's 100 acres behind Lawson Chapel.